I don't think it's possible to commit a crime without leaving your DNA at the scene. Wow. Think about that for a second. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the science behind modern forensics. We are officially entering an era where pulling off a completely traceless crime is, well, practically impossible. And honestly, I'm absolutely thrilled to walk you through exactly how scientists are pulling this off.
We're calling this the age of forensics 3.0. You know, we've moved so far beyond the days of a lone detective squinting through a magnifying glass and dusting for fingerprints. Today, solving crimes is a highly precise, multidisciplinary science. It's this incredible fusion where cutting-edge tech seamlessly meets biology, physics, and computer science to build the ultimate modern detective's toolkit.
So here's our roadmap for today. First up, we'll look at virtual reality crime scenes. Then, biology and the body. Third, DNA and microtraces. And finally, catching digital deepfakes.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, virtual reality crime scenes, and the spatial science behind them.
So how exactly is spatial science revolutionizing step one of an investigation? Well, it all starts right at the physical crime scene. Take the State Criminal Police Office in Wiesbaden, Germany, for instance. Investigators there are rolling out 3D laser scanners that measure tens of millions of points every single second. Tens of millions! The goal is to capture the physical space before evidence simply vanishes. By taking this massive cloud of laser data and stitching it together with super detailed digital photos and even drone footage from above, these scientists can create a flawless, immortal digital twin of the entire scene.
Now, you might be wondering, why go through all this trouble? Well, once a real physical crime scene gets cleaned up, it's gone for good. But with a digital twin, the possibilities just explode. Investigators can literally revisit the scene years later. They can stand in the exact virtual spot a witness claimed to be, just to verify their line of sight. They can use the spatial data to mathematically calculate the exact trajectory of a gunshot. They're even using VR headsets and tracking gloves so multiple investigators from completely different locations, or even judges, can step inside the preserved scene together. It is a total game changer for spatial science.
Moving on to Section 2, biology and the body, bugs, bones, and botanicals.
To really understand how a body tells a story after death, we need to look at forensic entomology, which is the study of insects. Now, unlike humans, insects are ectothermal. That means their growth rate is entirely dependent on the temperature around them rather than an internal body heat. Since decomposition starts within minutes and attracts flies, forensic scientists can actually use the specific growth stages of fly larvae as a super precise biological clock. It literally helps them determine the exact time of death.
And this shows you just how rigorous the science behind modern forensics really is. There was a highly unusual case in Germany where the perpetrator tried to cover the victim's dismembered body parts in laundry detergent, hoping to hide the scent and destroy evidence. Entomologists in Frankfurt had to figure out, wait, does detergent change that biological clock we just talked about? So they ran a controlled experiment right there, comparing fly growth on standard meat versus detergent-contaminated meat. They found the detergent slowed the larval growth just a little bit, but it didn't stop the flies from settling. By taking this new data and adjusting their calculations, they pinpointed the exact time of death. And that calculation perfectly implicated the victim's son-in-law, ultimately landing him a 10-year prison sentence.
But hey, biology isn't just about bugs. It's also about physical trauma. At Frankfurt University Hospital, they actually developed their own proprietary post-mortem 3D scanning process that happens right on the autopsy table. In just 10 to 12 minutes, they capture 400 to 600 high-resolution images, using specialized flashes to cut down on reflections. Then, software takes over, stitching it all together into a millimeter-accurate 3D model of the victim's injuries. Later on, if the police find a suspected murder weapon, let's say a metal pipe, they can scan it, scale it, and digitally overlay it right onto the model to see if the weapon's geometry perfectly matches the blunt force trauma.
And sometimes, the biggest clues are botanical. Get this. Investigators once found a body in a wet, marshy area. Sounds straightforward, right? But on closer inspection, they discovered microscopic fragments of a plant attached to the victim, a plant that only grows in dry, sandy soil. That tiny, silent anomaly proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the victim was actually killed somewhere else and then moved. The killer totally thought they had covered their tracks, but the environment itself gave them away. That brings us to Section 3. DNA and microtraces, the microscopic informants.
You really have to appreciate the staggering, rapid evolution of DNA science. I mean, DNA only became a standard tool in the 1990s. Back in 1991, to get a genetic fingerprint, you needed a sample of blood or saliva roughly the size of a half-dollar coin.
For forensics, that is a massive amount of biological material. Fast forward to today. Thanks to breakthroughs in molecular biology, a single, invisible, microscopic skin cell left behind is all it takes to build a complete genetic profile. Just one cell. To give you an idea of how effective this is in the real world, let's look at the tragic 2019 assassination of German politician Walter Lübcke. At first, the police were completely in the dark, but forensic pioneer Harald Schneider and his team went to work on the victim's clothing, meticulously sifting through well over 1,000 microscopic traces. And out of that massive haystack, they found a single solitary skin particle that didn't belong to the victim. That one microscopic trace linked directly to a repeat offender in the database, breaking wide open an incredibly high-profile murder case. Okay, but what happens if the DNA isn't already in the database? That brings us to a huge leap in forensic science known as DNA phenotyping. You see, traditional analysis is reactive. You need that existing database match to find your suspect. Phenotyping, on the other hand, is proactive. It actually reads the genetic code to figure out a suspect's physical appearance. It can tell scientists the person's eye color, hair color, skin color, and even their age. It literally lets investigators build a genetic composite sketch of someone who has never even been arrested before.
Of course, applying this kind of science quickly intersects with legal frameworks, which do vary a lot from country to country. In Germany, for example, data protection law allows using phenotyping to determine eye, hair, and skin color. But it explicitly bans determining a suspect's biogeographic genetic origin. This means scientists there legally cannot analyze the DNA to state whether a suspect's origins trace back to Western Europe, Asia, or anywhere else. The law is firmly designed to prioritize data protection, though many forensic scientists will point out that this restriction keeps a very effective tool out of their modern toolkit.
Now for our final stop, Section 4, Catching Digital Deepfakes, IT Forensics.
In Forensics 3.0, crime doesn't just happen in the physical world. It happens in the digital realm of pixels and audio waves. So I want to pose a question to you. Was the Ibizagate video real? You might remember this. It was that massive 2019 political scandal where a secretly recorded video showed Austrian politicians offering political favors in an Ibiza villa. When explosive video evidence like this drops, the justice system relies on data detectives, like the folks at the Fraunhofer Institute, to definitively prove whether a digital file is authentic or just a fabricated hoax.
So how did they authenticate it? Well, it was pure detective work mixed with spatial logic. The IT forensic team scrutinized the interior shots and spotted a light switch in the video that flat out did not exist in the actual architectural plans of the villa. They deduced that this fake switch was actually housing a covert camera. By analyzing the shape and dimensions of that switch on the video, they matched it exactly to a real covert camera sold in a security catalog. That proved the surveillance footage was authentically captured on site. The video was real, and the fallout ultimately brought down a governing coalition.
But today, we're dealing with fakes that are way more sophisticated than a hidden camera and a light switch. We're talking about AI deepfakes, like the heavily doctored video of Ukrainian President Zelensky that circulated not too long ago. To catch these, scientists zoom way in, looking for local pixel variations and using advanced signal processing to spot tampering that is completely invisible to the human eye. Most incredibly, they are fighting fire with fire. They're actually training their own artificial intelligence systems to mathematically spot the microscopic digital signatures of inauthentic AI-generated material, separating it from raw, authentic footage.
And that brings us to our final thought. We've seen how today's investigators can freeze time with lasers, read the biological clocks of insects, track down a single microscopic skin cell, and hunt down manipulated pixels. As Forensics 3.0 continues to evolve, weaving all of this incredible science together, will criminals ever truly be able to hide in the modern age? It is definitely a fascinating question to ponder. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep your curiosity sharp.